Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Los Angeles, Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.
Russell Dobular here with Keaton Weiss filling in for Jimmy Dore. Jimmy will be back on Friday with Rumble Time. That will be 7 p.m. Eastern Time with his special guest, Tucker Carlson. All right, so Dan Cohen from Uncaptured Media just dropped a very interesting series about what the future plans are for Gaza. So here we have U.S. authorizes CIA mercenaries to run biometric concentration camps in the Gaza Strip. The Biden administration has approved the deployment of 1,000 CIA-trained private mercenaries as part of a joint U.S.-Israeli plan to turn Gaza's apocalyptic rubblescape into a high-tech dystopia. Starting with Al-Atatra, a village in the northwestern Gaza Strip, the plan calls to build what the Israeli Daily Ynet calls humanitarian bubbles, turning the remains of villages and neighborhoods into tiny concentration camps cut off from their environs and surrounded and controlled by mercenaries. This comes as Israel carries out daily massacres and ethnic cleansing in northern Gaza, enacting the proposal known as the General's Plan, originally crafted by former National Security Chief Giora Eiland to turn Gaza into, quote, a place where no human being can exist. The plan, approved by White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, i.e. the real president, calls for the Israeli military to clear out pockets of Palestinian resistance, which it has failed to achieve, demonstrated by the recent killing of Israeli Colonel Hassan Daksa, the highest-ranking officer to lose his life in the year-long war. 48 hours after stamping out resistance, they plan to erect separation walls around the neighborhood, forcing its residents and no one else to enter and exit using biometric identification under the CIA contractor's control. Those who do not accept the biometric regime would be refused humanitarian aid. This plan, first reported by Israeli journalist Shlomi Eldar, allocates $90 million for the residents to rebuild their homes and calls to appoint a local sheikh to the position of head of the council. The plan is a 21st century reboot of Washington's infamous failed Strategic Hamlet program during its war in Vietnam in the 1960s, updated with a modern biometric program the U.S. military-industrial complex has incorporated into its operations since, in particular, the beginning of the so-called War on Terror. The U.S. has even created a little-known agency called the Defense Forensics and Biometrics Agency to advance this.
You know, I thought I was done having children, but I might have to have one more just so I can name him Shlomi Eldar. It's just too tempting.
That was actually in the original screenplay for Star Wars Episode 7. That was going to be the son of Luke and Leia. They were going to
Shlomi's revenge.
They were going to get together and break that incest taboo. The company at the forefront of this plan is called Global Delivery Company, described in its promotional materials as a Uber for war zones. Israeli-American businessman Moti Kahana owns it and employs several top Israeli and American military intelligence officials, including retired U.S. Navy Captain Michael Dernan, retired U.S. Special Forces Captain Justin Sapp, former Israeli Military Intelligence Division head Yossi Cooper-Wasser, you thought the other one was a name, and former Israeli military chief intelligence officer David Sur. Okay, so there is a video from this company. This is some serious RoboCop dystopian shit. This is their real advertisement.
When crisis hits, GDC is there for you. a comprehensive security solution for companies, government agencies, and nonprofits living or operating in high-risk areas. Think of us as Uber for war zones. In one simple click, using our app or dedicated phone lines, we activate our entire platform to address your emergency needs, be it evacuation assistance or delivery of humanitarian supplies. Our expert teams get your people out safely and effectively, provide emergency services, or deliver life-saving medicine, resources, and food, ensuring critical supplies reach those who need them most, no matter the situation. With local teams operating in over 100 countries supported by a 24/7 command center, we react swiftly and effectively to any crisis at the push of a button, even in the most dangerous environments. War zones, conflict areas, or natural disasters, you can count on GDC. GDC, we deliver.
It is like Uber for war zones. They'll even bring food. You can order a burger from Outback Steakhouse, and they'll swing by and they'll bring it on the way to rescue you from the war zone.
Yeah, you can even order it from Australia while you're in Lebanon. That is how these are serious people.
They'll come with a six-pack of Budweiser. Check your ID before you get on the chopper, so you can drink on the way out.
They check your biometrics. That is like an ad from RoboCop.
Oh yeah.
Here at OCP, we are providing for all your security needs. Kahana
they actually write the joke for you. It's like Uber for like you would think that would be like what a joke writer would write to comment on the piece. No, they just put it right in.
Yeah, no. That is something that really strikes you when you delve into the internal communiques of organizations like this. They do not see themselves as the evil, creepy entities that they are. This is the world they live in, man. The people who go to work for them. Cohen, at one point in this series, quotes the owners as describing their employees as war junkies. These are usually people who had long careers in the military and they fucking liked it. And they said, hey, I can make a lot of money just doing this for the rest of my life. Woo-hoo! That's how we used forces. He talks about this in the series too. We used forces like this in Iraq. We saw how that went. How do you think a bunch of adrenaline junkies are going to handle being peacekeepers in a war zone?
Right.
Kahana has played a key role in the dirty war against Syria in the 2010s and worked with the CIA-backed Free Syrian Army to provide food and medical care to militants and civilians alike. GDC has also been involved in Ukraine, where it collaborated with the Zionist organization, the American Joint Distribution Committee, to operate a refugee camp in Romania near its border with Ukraine. Kahana's Gaza plan has been in the works since at least February 2024. He presented the plan to establish these electronic cantons, what Jewish News referred to as gated communities, to the White House, State Department, and Defense Department, as well as Netanyahu. U.S. officials did not respond. While the Israeli military had agreed, the Israeli prime minister shot it down. "What's the rush?" he quipped. The GDC CIA mercenaries would be in full control of humanitarian aid, thereby supplanting Hamas and ending its governance, they figure, achieving a long-term goal of the Israeli war. Quote, if the pilot goes through successfully, it will be the model for the rehabilitation of Gaza and will result in the suppression of Hamas's civilian control of the Strip, notes Eldar, Keaton's future child. The latest plan appears to involve a long-term Israeli military occupation in combination with an international mandate. While the proposal called for the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, or Saudi Arabia to assume civilian control over the Gaza Strip, that has failed to materialize, prompting the United States to approve deployment of CIA contractors. While Israel has forced thousands of Palestinian civilians to march south, Gaza's still formidable armed resistance may stifle these plans. Wow, man, that sounds pretty significant, the CIA approving the deployment of 1,000 mercenaries there. You would think that would be in CNN, right? Should be on the front page of the New York Times.
No, there's so much of this. Like we have to, because part of doing this gig is you have to constantly be looking for stories. So you actually have to have like filters set to give you Israel news, because I mean, some of it comes up in the feed, but most of it doesn't. Most of it you actually have to like set a filter to the news app and actually search through pages and pages and pages of like pre-filtered news stories in order to really find stuff. It doesn't appear just in general news.
And this is why we need independent outlets like this. So it gets better. Disgraced CIA director looks to cash in on Gaza concentration camps. Of course, that old rascal, David Petraeus, is in with these people thick as thieves. So this is quite a damning video where he describes these conceived concentration camps as like Florida resorts.
I believe there should be a vision for the future of the Palestinian people that is similar to the vision that we presented to the people of Iraq before we conducted the major operations that we did there during the surge.
That went so well.
The people of Fallujah, and we would tell them in advance of our operation, we are going to make your lives better. We're going to do it by getting Al-Qaeda out of your neighborhoods, and then we're going to stay in those neighborhoods. We're going to create gated communities, essentially. It's an accurate description, but with much more effective walls. In fact, we would tell them, I said, look, it costs a lot of money to be in a gated community in Florida, and we're going to give it to you for free here in Fallujah.
So it's hard as a cow to find endless fields of grain. We're going to give you that.
Right.
And the slaughterhouse here, this is state of the art for you. This is state of the art. People will pay a lot of money for a slaughterhouse like this.
Unbelievable.
It gets better. Then he went on to do an interview about this, in which the interviewer was very frank about how the mercenaries who are going to be assigned to police these people in their own land are going to have to shoot some of them, which he does not object to, as you'll see.
Come in after the Israelis pull back, presumably towards the Gaza border. There's a lot of talk about an international force that eventually would have Arab participation. Initially might be a kind of coalition of the willing Scandinavian nations, other nations that are prepared to go in.
Yeah.
But they're going to need to have very tough rules of engagement.
The uncommitted movement.
Exactly. I've never seen anything like that work very well.
Oh, hang on. What happened?
What force will come in after the Israelis pull back, presumably towards the Gaza border? There's a lot of talk about an international force that eventually would have Arab participation. Initially might be a kind of coalition of the willing Scandinavian nations, other nations that are prepared to go in. But they're going to need to have very tough rules of engagement. They're going to need to shoot people. I've never seen anything like that work very well.
Wow.
Yeah, they're absolutely going to need to shoot people. So yeah, no, like animals. And the assumption of all regions to go for the whitest people on earth. Yeah, maybe some Scandinavians in there. No, it is so good that we have moved past the era of settler colonialism. While Petraeus portrays the concentration camps as benevolence towards Palestinians, he stands to reap financial benefits from such an arrangement. Shocker. Since 2013, he has been a partner at the behemoth private investment firm Kohlberg, Kravis, Roberts and Company, known as KKR, and is chairman of its Global Institute. KKR financial disclosures showed that it has invested heavily in Constellus, which is the private security firm that Mordechai Moti Kahana, the Israeli-American owner of Global Delivery Company who heads the plan, has contracted for design and implementation. Constellus is the current iteration of the notorious mercenary outfit Blackwater, later renamed Academy, and counts several other similar companies among its assets, including Triple Canopy Olive Group and the development initiative Centera, AMK9, Omniplex, Strategic Social, and Edinburgh International. And there is David Petraeus's bio on the KKR website. So he's going to go destroy other societies for a lot more money than he did it for the U.S. government.
Well, that's how it goes. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point, right? You work in the public sector to build your profile, and then you get the big checks years down the road. You know, it's funny how I feel like, you know, because of the rise of the internet and social media and, like, you know, alternative media, sometimes you'll see clips like we just saw. And I'm not just talking about Dan Cohen's writing, which is great. Everybody should go check his Substack out. Absolutely uncaptured media. But just that video of Petraeus speaking at that event, this interview with Ignatius here, like, you'll get a look every now and then at something that, like, 30 years ago, before the age of the internet, you would just assume was, like, privileged information that was never available to the public. Right. And you really see there's really not much difference between it being available to the public and it not being available to the public. Because, like, yeah, that stuff is out there, but who really sees it? Like you just said, like, it's not prominent. It's not featured anywhere. It doesn't really affect the discourse in any major way beyond, you know, people who are hyper tuned in and, you know, watch shows like this and really seek out that kind of information. Like, the power that legacy media still has is to most people filter all of this stuff out.
Sure.
You know, that's how you have a campaign. That's why we're 6 days out from an election and no one's ever heard of this. No one's, I didn't hear this until I saw this, that we were doing this story.
Well, this is part of why, if you are passionate about these topics, if you really want to find out why the world you live in is the way it is, and you really are willing to pursue that and alienate friends and relatives in the process, you're going to increasingly be in a place where when you talk politics with normies, they might as well be from Mars.
Right.
They're so, as I see people that I know talking about this election in terms of, you know, love is love and I'm choosing choice. It's just, Jesus Christ, man. Jesus Christ. It's like listening to third graders talk about politics. They have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. They have no idea what's going on because their media, these should be the biggest stories in the country. If we actually had a real media, we were going to cover tonight. We're going to cover it tomorrow on our show. Jimmy's going to do it on Rumble Time. Kamala went up there and started talking in her speech last night, started talking about how disgraceful it is, how Trump talks about military people, and she'll never talk about 4-star generals that way. Well, why not? Why not? Look at these fucking pieces of shit. And I'm not saying they all are, but there are plenty of them that deserve to be talked about in exactly the way Trump talks about them. You just had Milley, who has been running around calling Trump a fascist. He's a consultant for Chase Bank now. He just literally went in front of bankers, and I shit you not, if you haven't seen this, you can look it up, went in front of bankers and thanked them for their service. Now, I've never been in the military, but from what I know from being around military people, those words are very meaningful for people who come from that world. And to confer that on bankers, hey, you handle trillions of dollars and you're always thanking us for our service. I want to thank you for your service. So what? You can't call out these people when so many of them cash in at the end of their career and do things like what Petraeus is doing or what Milley is doing. Not all of them. I had the pleasure this weekend to meet Colonel Wilkerson. You know, he didn't take the money. You got people with integrity. I'm not besmirching the military or even most of these guys, but some of them are really just as bad as any politician.
Have you considered Milley was just trying not to be anti-Semitic?
That could be it. That could be it.
You know, you always have to look for the negative in people, you know. Maybe he was just trying to...
It's a tick I have.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Los Angeles, Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.